Hey guys, here we go into a video, kind of an evolution of a fighter style video on Luke Campbell for his upcoming fight with Vasily Lomachenko. And at the end, we'll talk about what I think his chances are in that fight with Vasily, who is, arguably, one of the greatest fighters of all time. He just has such an amazing skill set, such an amazing level of craft, and he's so smart. But what we're going to be taking a look at is kind of the finer points of fighting, right? Number one, you can't let your opponent set punches up against you. You can't. If they set punches up against you, they get you out of position, they're going to kick your ass every time. So we're going to take a look at how Luke Campbell looks to break the layers of his opponent's attacks down by controlling the space, and how he's grown from the first Yves Mendes fight, or Mendes, to his next one. And we're going to take a look at some of the clips. So first off, well, I don't know why that skipped, but anyway, what we want to watch is how he controls the space between him and his opponent, Ivan Mendy, sorry. So as you can see, the first thing that happens, his opponent's coming forward and he shoots a jab, right? Now there are a few problems with this jab. Number one, he steps with it, and look at how he leans into that shot and then leans into that one. That puts him open for this counter from his opponent. Now, I know his opponent is a right-handed fighter, and that's one of the problems with doing a film study on this fight, is that Luke Campbell hasn't fought any southpaws. But we're going to be looking at this and seeing if he'll be able to extrapolate this idea, or these ideas, into his mirrored stance, right? Fighting a fellow southpaw. But anyway, what we want to be looking at is his active guard, right? And how often he moves and transitions his weight, but without throwing a punch, right? And the reason that that's really important is because when you throw a punch, you create openings for your opponent. And as we see here, as Mendy comes forward, he just throws his uppercut. This punch lands. That's a great shot. Then he throws the left hook right there, but then he eats a body shot there on the way out. The reason that this is important is because we can see that the layer of his attacks, or the way that he controls the space, is by punching at his opponent. Decent feint right there with that shot, but again, when his opponent starts coming forward, right, he's not really setting these shots up, he's just hoping his opponent's going to walk into them. Again, controlling the space by attacking his opponent, hoping that doing everything correctly is going to put him ahead on the scorecards, right? So the idea here is that if your opponent puts himself in position A, and you have the counter for position A, then you throw the counter, and you're always on top, right? But the problem is for this style, Campbell is committing to all of his attacks, but he's not controlling his opponent. As we see here, his opponent's coming forward. He sees that jab coming, even though it's kind of a probing jab, controlling the space. It's still a punch. He's not probing. He's not controlling the glove or feinting or taking advantage of the fact that Ivan just slipped to the outside here, right? And that's because he's busy committing to this jab here, right? Whereas if this was just a controlling the glove right here, controlling the glove here, right? Now he can transition his weight. As Mendy looks to transition his weight from his back foot to his front foot, he could do the same thing by throwing a left cross right here. Boom. But because of the fact that Campbell is not controlling the space with feints and an active guard, right? He's only doing it with punches. Mendy's able to get on the inside on him. And let's not focus on the fact that he doesn't land any punches there, right? But let's just focus on the fact that while he's moving forward, he knows he's going to be attacked on his front foot, and he's able to continually get on the inside of Campbell. And this is one of the biggest problems that Campbell had in the fight with Mendy the first time, is that he had no control over Mendy, right? He's stepping on this front foot, but then he's not in any danger because he knows to slip a shot there, and then he's able to close the distance and land his own shot. Now, this is exactly how Lomachenko fights, you guys, to the T. But Lomachenko is way better at it than Mendy. Way better. But again, controlling him, right? And he just allows Mendy to get on the inside without throwing punches once he gets him out of position. And this shows that Luke Campbell doesn't understand how to control the space at this point in his career, right? And that's very, very, very important to note. But again, look at how he's stuck in this position right here. He's staying here, block, 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 control, right? And then transfers his weight, right? But he's not feinting right here. He's not probing. He does a good job right there. This is like a great sequence here. But staying on the line after, because Mendy, it looks like he knows that he's going to take punches coming forward, right? Whereas Lomachenko is going to be looking to control that lead hand of Campbell, and then when he gets Campbell to throw punches like this, he's going to look to counter rather than waiting for the shots to come and then landing shots when Campbell gets stuck on the line. But again, what I want you to focus on now is Campbell's active guard. Look at how little he transitions his weight when he takes each step. How he's kind of like a robot with his shoulders. He's stuck there. His head is always on the line, right? And that means that once he gets feinted out of position, right, he gets stuck on the line, and he can only block these punches. As you can see, he's not transitioning his weight, slipping to the inside or to the outside. And this is one of the reasons why Mendy was able to beat him in the first fight. Again, because Campbell, anytime he transitions his weight, it's going to be a real punch. And as you see here, Mendy is slipping to the outside of Campbell and is able to get on the inside. Let's not focus on the fact that he doesn't land any punches. It's only the first round. But he's able to take advantage of Luke Campbell thinking he's doing the right thing. And again, always committing to punches when he transitions his weight. And that makes it very easy for us to predict what Campbell is going to do. And again, not a very active guard if you see him standing here, right? His hands are just glued to his head. His legs are bent, but he's taking small steps back. But when he takes these steps, he's not transferring his weight, right? Which means he's not going to have very much power in his slips and his rolls when he comes back with punches because he's not constantly transitioning his weight. But again, very predictable in all of these manners, right? Here, shooting that right hand, and even though it kind of lands, right? Later on in the fight, Mendy has much more success fighting Campbell because of the fact that Campbell is so predictable. Again, Campbell using real punches to control the space between him and his opponent rather than feinting and probing and getting him out of position. And as you can see here, this is where Mendy starts to really start landing some shots, right? Good right hand right there. But again, that's because Campbell is not able to get Mendy out of position with his feints and his probes and his control before letting his punches go. Again, decent right there, lead hand control, but this is the most common part about fighting a southpaw and a right-handed fighter, is that you usually understand this tactic, right? Now, it's going to be a big problem when he winds up fighting the southpaw Lomachenko, because not everyone understands that you need to still continue to control the lead hand, that doesn't go away just because your opponent is fighting left-handed and you're left-handed, right? But again, right, Campbell throwing punches that he has not gotten Mendy out of position for, right? And that's going to be a big problem for him if he continues to do that throughout his career. And that's actually one of the reasons why he lost this fight. Again, right, committing to shots and getting walked into counters here, right? Because he's not feinting, he's not controlling Mendy, he doesn't know how to get Mendy out of position. Now, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the next clip. Actually, not this one. That'll be the last one. But I actually forgot who this opponent was, what his name was. Forgive me. Oh, it's Young, right? But it's Y-U-N-G. Now let's focus on Luke Campbell and his active guard. Look at how just a little bit more he's rocking back and forth. Look at his shoulders right here. He's going to do that. Now look at how he leans on that front foot to transfer his weight and then back to his back foot. Front foot, back foot. And he's using a little bit of head movement to stay in position. This is so much different than the very stationary Luke Campbell here, where his shoulders never change position. He's not transferring his weight anywhere. And it makes it very, very predictable for him, for his opponents to find out when he's going to attack, because that's the only time he transitions his weight. Now, adding just these little bit of layers here by feinting, right, and using that lead hand control, but transitioning his weight, look at how much more active he is with that lead hand. Every time he rocks on that front foot, transitioning his weight, again, transitioning his weight from back foot to front foot, he controls his opponent. Control, right? Put his lead hand out there, control. But he's transitioning his weight here, and he's not, look at how much less, I want to say, like, inactive, I guess. I had a better word in my head for it, but I couldn't bring it out for whatever reason. But again, look at how much more control he has over his lead hand and his opponent because he's feinting and controlling him, and he's transitioning his weight. It's very slight in this fight, but it's much, much, much better, as you can see, not just standing in front of his opponent, waiting for his opponent to do something, as you see here, block, block, just allows him to come forward, eating a shot, right? A little bit of lead hand control, but look at how he's, instead of using lead hand control here, he throws a right hand, or a left hand, right? But again, look at how out of position he winds up here, and he just expects this right hand to land, or this left hand to land. But he hasn't set this shot up at all, and he winds up eating that left hook. Now it's not super important whether it lands. I think it lands, but the idea remains the same, is that he doesn't have control over Mendy. He has no control here, right? And he's not transitioning his weight. He's just stuck on the front foot, probing right there, landing a decent shot. But again, no control over Mendy, just exploding out of his guard and throwing these shots. And you can see the huge difference in this next fight, right, with Young, in which he's constantly controlling him, probing with the lead hand. Look at how much larger and dominant Campbell looks, right? Look at the way he uses this probe right here. Just puts it in his face. His opponent comes forward and he takes a step back and continues controlling him with the shot, rather than being feinted out of his guard and throwing a straight left hand, which might be countered. He continues to control him and transition his weight. Again, look at his feet. Just much better the way that he's transitioning his weight when he's walking around. Not nearly as robotic. And again, very important, every time he's on that front foot, control, control, control. Constantly feinting and using this active guard, right? Boom. Control, right? Lead hand, lead hand, lead hand. Very, very active with it. And then finally looking to get his opponent out of position and then shooting that shot. And much, much safer, right? He's not getting hit by the counter. It looks very similar, but it's much safer of a performance from him using this lead hand and the way that he's transitioning his weight a little bit in between each engagement. Again, and this is what I'm talking about right here. Just watch his feet here. Front foot, back foot, front foot, back foot, front foot, back foot. And this is going to disguise his left hand just a little bit, just enough so that when he probes with this shot, boom, transfers weight back and then into a straight left hand. Now, he's not doing it here, obviously, but that's, he does do it right there. Front foot, front foot, front foot, and then shoots a jab right there. Now, his opponent's not in position to counter it, right? But that's because he's controlling him with the lead hand. So Young has to figure out first, before he can start countering the shots, how to get control of the space between him and his opponent by controlling that lead hand. But Young is, he's being completely dominated right here in terms of, like, control of the fight. No one's landing any punches, but that's not the point. It appears right now that the only person in position to land any punches is Luke Campbell. And that's very, very, very different from this fight with Mendy, in which Mendy was able to feint, use here, right, and get Campbell out of position before attacking, because Campbell was the one basically going first in each exchange, in spite of the fact that he would have some success, but obviously we know he lost that fight. Now, we're going to take a look at the next fight, his rematch with Mendy, in which he had a fantastic performance. Now, this is very, very important. Again, we want to be paying attention to the active guard, right? Look at how he uses the lead hand every time he steps on that front foot, right? Control, 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 feinting, right? But controlling Mendy, and every time Mendy steps forward and every time he steps on that front foot, he's controlling him with the lead hand. And now look at how Mendy has to reach with this shot. He's not even close with his counters because he's being controlled on every weight transition that he makes. Every weight transition that Luke Campbell makes, he's feinting as well. Control, control, right? And he's able to feint, 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 get him into the high guard, and then explode out and land that shot very similarly, and then move off the line, right? But this all starts because he's controlling him with the lead hand so much more effectively. And again, this is, again, something else that Luke Campbell wasn't doing in the first fight. Look at how he transfers his weight from his back foot to his front foot. And now look at how Mendy has to respond. He has to bring his guard up. He thinks that punches are going to be coming, so he has to get into his guard and block those shots, right? And that's another way to control and feint. Now, Mendy does a great job here of getting Luke Campbell and timing Luke Campbell to get that shot over the top. And this is going to be a big problem for Luke Campbell when he fights Lomachenko, because Lomachenko is so much better at this than Mendy is. So much better. But again, Luke Campbell, control, 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 right? And then maintaining the control of the space. And if you watch Mendy, he's not doing anything. Every time he gets feinted, right? He gets controlled, he slips, but then he moves out of position, right? So feint, feint. Now he's stuck on his front foot. He doesn't want to get caught with a straight left because he knows he's out of position, so he has to roll out, and Campbell's able to catch him with the shot. Now, this is the same thing if Mendy was to throw a left hook, right? So he's getting caught out of position, rotating his weight, and this is because Campbell is controlling him. He's putting him in this position with the lead hand. He's seeing, oh, there's no offense here. He has complete control of me. I have to rotate my weight back, and then Campbell's able to catch him with the shot on those weight transitions, right? But again, control, 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 but getting a little stale in his guard. Notice he's not transitioning his weight anymore. He starts settling down, and Mendy's able to use that opportunity to sneak in a straight right hand. Again, this shows a fundamental lack of knowledge on Campbell's part. In spite of the fact that he's doing the right things, he doesn't understand that he has control of the positioning. He doesn't understand that doing this is going to force Mendy to put himself into a different position to land a punch, and that he has control of when Mendy is going to do that and when he's not with that lead hand. But again, you can see the massive difference in how much he's probing and he's feinting, right? This is only 1 minute into the round. Feint the right hand, right? Oh, gets a look at him. Control, control, control. Is he going to counter the left hand to the body, right? But again, doing a much better job. Control that lead hand and then going over the counter. And then also getting off the line after he attacks is something that he didn't do as well in the first Mendy fight. But you can see the difference in the active guard for the most part and how much control he's looking to exert over his opponent. And again, walking him into shots, control, and then he gets him when he steps forward, stepping. And as he's stepping, Campbell's going to control the lead glove. Now watch Mendy's left leg. He takes that step, and as he's stepping off the control, he gets walked into this shot while he's transferring his weight. Again, this is the same position that Mendy would be in if he was throwing a right hand or taking that step, transferring his weight from his back foot to his front foot. That's just the way that your mechanics, your body mechanics work when you transition your weight. And Campbell he has control of that lead hand. He knows that the only punch that can come from Mendy, because he's controlling that lead hand, is going to be the right hand. So when Mendy takes that step to shoot the possible right hand or take the positional advantage, he attacks him. Now, this is something that he wasn't doing when he fought him the first fight. He didn't know that he had to wait for Mendy to change positions before attacking him. He would just attack him while Mendy was in the same position, and then he would get countered, right? Because Mendy wouldn't be out of position when Campbell was attacking him. Whereas in a lot of the cases here, he waits for him to transfer his weight and then attacks him when he's off balance. Again, control, and then setting up those shots to the body, doing a great job, and then even more important, after he attacks, controlling him with the lead hand again. You can see his glove there. But Campbell is showing that he has been training, he's been working really hard, and now you can see Mendy looking to get lead hand control, right? Controlling the glove, and then at this position, Campbell's like, oh, I don't have control of this, right? So I'll start initiating more lead hand control, right? And then, again, attacking that glove, right? Attacking his hands, and then setting up more shots. Now, he almost gets caught with a counter, but again, this right here is going to be so important for him to understand that he can use his left hand to control his opponent so he can land shots, but also so he can find himself not being put out of position because he's feinting with both weight transitions, not just his lead hand. Again, doing a great job here of controlling Mendy with his feints and his probes. And you can see the massive difference in the way that the engagements were going before. Before, it would be Campbell would throw, basically he would throw this straight left hand, right, boom, and then Mendy would start countering him. But here he feints it and then gets him to open up because he thinks the shot's going to come, and then goes to the body again. I'm not sure if he lands the shot, right? It's not super important. It looks like it lands, but he's doing a great job of probing, getting Mendy to go first, right? So he can move his head off the line and counter him, right? And that's what you want to be looking for when you're controlling your opponent. You want your opponent to make the first weight transition so that you can start throwing punches at them after. Now, the parts that are going to be very concerning is at Campbell's best, I anticipate the fight looking a lot like this. At the very best, control, land a couple pity-patter shots, and then Lomachenko finding him out of position because Campbell doesn't use... He doesn't understand how to control his opponents in all of the most effective ways, right? Now, what I mean by that is physically, right? After you throw a right hand, you want to smother your opponent. Either you want to move off the line, right? Use head movement, responsible defense, and move off the line. Or you want to control your opponent with the same hand that you punched, right? So you throw that right hand, and then you use your forearm after you land it, or you miss, to control their dominant hands, the dominant side of their body, right? Or the side of your body, or the side of their body that you're crossing your head to, right? So you throw that shot, and then you move your head to that side, and then you control that side of their body, and you put your weight onto them. Kovalev does this really well, and it's very, very, very clean, very, very, very effective at blocking your opponent's weight transition so they can't punch you. Now, because he doesn't do that, you can see that even though Campbell's doing a great job here of letting these shots go, he still finds himself out of position here, trying to just do everything perfectly, right? Rather than trying to control his opponent. Because if he were to throw these shots here, boom, boom, and then use that left forearm to pin, or that right forearm to pin Mendy's left glove to his head right there, if he were to just take his glove and turn his forearm over and push it into Mendy's arm, onto like both parts of his arm, right? The wrist, well, the back of his wrist and the forearm, or the forearm and the bicep, he could control that arm and stop Mendy from transferring his weight from his front foot, which is right leg right now, into the back foot and getting that left hook right there, right? But because Campbell doesn't really understand this stuff, he's not the most well-schooled, he's still very young, I don't think he has any chance to beat Lomachenko. Not even a little bit. Although the fact that he has gotten much better since the first Mendy fight, using the feints, using the probes, and controlling him, and able to, on average, outpoint him, right? And that's all it is an average, right? If you do these things correctly and you control your opponent, on average, you're going to win your fights, right? On average. I don't know what the percentage would be, right? But on average, you're going to land more punches than your opponent. You're going to land cleaner, more effective punches than your opponent. And that causes you to win fights. That's how you do it. But Lomachenko is so much better at this than Luke Campbell is, and so much better than Mendy, that I really don't anticipate Luke Campbell nearly in any capacity being able to land really, really hard or effective punches against him, especially since the fact that he hasn't fought any southpaws as a professional fighter. Now, does Luke Campbell have the potential to be a really good fighter in the future? Yeah, man. Maybe he'll learn a lot from this fight. Maybe he'll land some punches. Maybe he'll knock Lomachenko down. Maybe. But do I think he's going to win the fight? I really don't think so. I don't think that power is enough. We saw what Lomachenko did to Nicholas Walters, and I don't think anyone's thinking that Campbell is a bigger puncher than Nicholas Walters. But anyway, just kind of a evolution of a fighter for Luke Campbell. I can't do a traditional film study, again, because Campbell has no southpaw opponents in his professional ranks or on YouTube. But I think that this, showing that he is learning these skills, but showing that he also still has holes in them, is going to transfer over to him fighting his right-handed opponent, or his left-handed opponent, in a way that favors Lomachenko. Because in spite of the fact that Campbell is doing all of this stuff and he's working on it and getting better, he still makes a lot of mistakes when doing it. Most notably after he punches, when he does commit, not being able to get off the line in the most effective ways. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out Fouts Boxing, where I'll be writing boxing articles. I am writing boxing articles. And we have a lot of really cool stuff going on that should be at Fouts Boxing soon. But yeah, thanks, guys.